I said I was going to do this video for a long time. It's time to crap or get off the pot. Roger Waters, Worst to Best, discography. I'm wearing my Roger Waters Wall 30th Anniversary Tour bootleg. Got it off one of the bootleg guys out in front of the arena when I went and saw the tour. And I don't wear it much because it's gigantic on me, so I'm going to take this shirt off. He doesn't have that much stuff. It's also, I don't even know how to fairly grade this stuff because kind of basing it off of how much I liked his work in Pink Floyd is kind of unfair because this is his solo work. But if he got into a lawsuit battle over the name Pink Floyd, you're kind of going to have like an unfair criticism or warranted. I don't know. Because when he left Pink Floyd, officially leaving them in 1985, and they went and carried on without him, he was saying, no, I'm Pink Floyd. So we're kind of going to judge that a little bit. He's got 4 live albums. They're mainly DVDs with soundtracks to them. So I kind of would recommend getting the DVDs because you get like the visual sense of Roger Waters concerts. There's lots of lights. There's lots of pigs flying around. There's all that stuff. And then he's got 1 opera and 2 soundtracks and only 4 studio albums. So I'm going to try and weave that in. If I do worst to best, we're only doing 4 albums here. But I'm going to try and talk about everything he's did. Like Pink Floyd's best as a whole. Like Rick Wright's solo albums. Like you can hear like his contributions of what he actually did for Pink Floyd in those, and same with Gilmour's solo albums. But none of them are as good as Pink Floyd as they all are together in Pink Floyd. They needed all of those elements put together to make this amazing band, because Pink Floyd is my second favorite band, next to Queen. But Roger Waters' solo stuff, there's not one great album. He's made some good stuff, but he hasn't made a great album. People try to say like Final Cut was like a solo album of his, but not really. I mean, Nick Mason barely played on it. Gilmour barely played on it, but he sang probably the coolest song on that, Not Now John, and he had like some smoking killer solos. Some of my most favorite solos he ever did was on that. The Not Now John one's like amazing. But that one had like a better vibe. It seemed like it was more focused than his solo work. Let's see. I didn't even write down notes for this one, so starting worst, I'm actually going to go with that opera, K.A.O.S. I only sat through it once. I give the guy credit for writing an opera. I don't know how much of the music he actually wrote himself, but as a rock fan, Pink Floyd fan, it wasn't kind of what I was looking for. Even though there's like lots of theatrical stuff in the trial and Pink Floyd The Wall. And I think Bob Ezrin wrote a lot of that, but I'm impressed that Roger Waters like had this in him. I don't know how much of the music for this he wrote himself. It was like cool, it was impressive, but it's like it's nothing you're throwing on again. I mean, you're gonna fight to sit through it once. So I know he wrote all the lyrics. It was based on like some book his friends wrote about the French Revolution, stuff like that. I couldn't get into it at all. You tried. Then where are we going from there? I'm going to write this down real quick. All right, I just wrote them down quick just to get my bearings. I missed one when I first wrote this down, so. All right, now number 7. Also, I only listened to this once just for the sake of making this review, giving a full picture of his complete discography. It's not even real. It's called Soldier's Tale. Igor Stravinsky. He narrates some old play or whatever it is. It's this very side project, not really musical of him. It's not him playing bass. It's not him writing any songs. That's what I was like the K.A.O.S. I kept listening. It was uh, like his doom 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 doom. He does that in like every Pink Floyd song. That's his octave drop stuff like that. You're not hearing that in K.A.O.S. You're not hearing him doing. This is already like pre-done music, and it's him just narrating stuff and playing out characters and things like that. It's interesting because you're a Roger Waters fan. You want to hear everything he does. You're obsessed, and you want to analyze his entire career. As is the one reason you would listen to this once. Other than that, ain't no hot jams on this song. You're not whipping it out, playing it in the car. Unless it's a very, very, very long ride. You're going across the country or something like that. You got time to kill. You're throwing this one on. Number 7, Soldier's Tale. So number 6, we're going to get into one of his soundtracks, movie soundtracks. We're going with When the Wind Blows. Only half of the When the Wind Blows soundtrack was Roger Waters. Other stuff had like David Bowie on it. I think there was a Genesis song on there. Not in print in America. I don't know, and I never saw the movie. Of course, it's like Roger Waters stuff, nuclear war, Cold War stuff, 80s, and it's more musical than the album I'm going to talk about. Probably, 2 albums from now. This came out, 86 or so after Pros and Cons, before Radio K.A.O.S, and calls back to certain themes of that's a when the wind blows the cradle will rock, stuff like that, but him doing more like acoustic-y stuff, other than him going like, digital on Radio K.A.O.S, stuff like that. But half of his 20 minutes or so, 22 minutes of the soundtrack, which you can watch on YouTube, somebody cut all the songs together. It's a lot of it's like sound effects, like missiles blowing up, stuff like that, and then the end of the world, Cold War stuff, which he already did on like Final Cut. Wasn't like Two Suns in the Sunset about nuclear war blowing up, nuclear bombs. So it was okay. It was okay. We'll get into pros and cons after, but number 5. I have to put it number 5. I would have put it actually higher because I kind of like the album more than number 4. But it's like unfairly. Like, if you listen to Umaguma, it's a bunch of weird sound effects from them. They're on the studio side of the album. The live side's great, but the studio side of the album is completely mental. They didn't know what they were doing in the studio. They didn't care. It's like, all right, go fill up a side. Each of you get 1/4 of the album. And Roger Waters' side, he does several small creatures in a cave grooving with a pick. I think that's how you say it. And he did it with this guy Ron Giesen, who also did the orchestrations on Adam Hart Mother. He's like his golfing buddy or something. I read that in the Pink Floyd biography when I was first getting into them. I bought the Pink Floyd biography and told the whole story of this album, which is The Body from 1970? Yes, I'm looking at it right, 1970. Most of this stuff isn't even by him. He just comes in with a couple of acoustic songs and maybe he helps out with like some of the other weird stuff, but Ron Giesen was like some weird experimental symphonic artist, and this actually has a Pink Floyd song, like Give Birth to a Smile. The rest is just like him. When he does songs on here, the actual conventional songs, they're little acoustic things. They all kind of sound the same, too. I only listened to this maybe twice also. And I was excited to actually listen to it just because it was weird and just because I liked Umaguma or Amagama. I don't know how you ever say it. And it's like that old weird, it's like, this is this weird mood music. Like, all right, the beginning of the album has like fart sounds, babies crying, stuff like this. It's supposed to be a documentary about That's something also I've never seen because it's probably been out of print for 45 years. Documentary about the body. They had like microscopic cameras inside looking at blood vessels, um, how the whole body works, stuff like that. They put it to like a quirky, weird soundtrack. That's what this is. If you're looking for weird early Pink Floyd stuff that makes no sense, listen to this one. That's why I was excited for that. Because number 4 was a more focused work by him. I don't actually have the CD for this one either. I keep meaning to buy it just to fill my collection, have it like complete. But I try and turn this album on like once every 2-3 years or so. Try to get into it. I'm trying to get into it, trying to understand, try to like it. I don't like it. Pros and cons of hitchhiking. It's number 4. Eric Clapton's on this. Eric Clapton plays on this album. And you say, oh, cool. It's like, he didn't come in and write with him. He just comes in and just like jams over some of the tracks that were probably already finished. It's like, all right, can you solo here? There, Eric Clapton probably whipped these out in probably like a day. The only one song on here that actually sounds like he contributed more to it and really shined on it was the actual song Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. It starts out with a good, like, Clapton-y jam. But too bad, like, the song has, like, a horrible chorus. Like, this is where Roger Waters begins putting, like, the female soul singers on there all the time. More so than, like, Dark Side of the Moon had Claire Torrey. I think it was Claire Torrey was also on this one. I think it's the same one, but they would sing his very, very wordy lyrics. These are the pros and cons of hitchhiking, which is a mouthful. It's like, good background vocals. She'd be like, ooh, and ah, stuff like that. That would have been more music. He presented this album to Pink Floyd. It was either we get The Wall or I got my other thing to do, Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. Whatever you guys don't want to do, I'll do the other one as a solo album because they were doing solo albums before The Wall. Rick Wright did, David Gilmour did. Good thing they paid. Like, I think if they could have made this album better if they probably played on it. This is where I find Roger Waters claiming like he was Pink Floyd in that whole momentary lapse of reason lawsuit stuff. I don't think the other guys got enough writing credits to tell you the truth. Because maybe the first 15 minutes of this album is just, the songs all seem like they're 2 chords. No, 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 no. It's either slow and low, or he yells and screams it. And you figure if it was a Pink Floyd album, like David or Nick Mason would have had like a 5-minute like drum solo, you would have imagined, or Gilmour would have whooped out, like it would have took like one of these, like I think there's 10 or 12 songs on there, the 12 songs I think, and it would have been 4 songs because the album was about like him in the middle of the night having a dream sequence, him keep waking up and he's having like a midlife crisis. He's fantasizing about some hitchhiker chick he picks up and they go on like some weird little adventure. He wakes up, his daughter wakes him up or something in the album. "No, Daddy," and he takes her to go get like a drink and tucks her back in. It's like, I don't want to hear this. This is why they was like, no, Roger, this is too personal. This is also boring. We don't care. Rockstar album about a guy having like a dad crisis when he's like 40. It's not that cool. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here talking crap about like pros and cons of hitchhiking. There's somebody out there that's like, that was the greatest, that was my favorite album ever. What is this guy talking about? Thumbs down. I have a bootleg of, I think it's from Chicago, of Roger Waters and Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton didn't really prepare much for that tour, I would say. The saxophone guy kind of plays way too many solos. He kind of takes some of David Gilmour's solo bits. The other guitarist on that tour, Andy Fairweather Lowe, he seemed to do the important stuff. He'll do the first solo in Money. Eric Clapton would do like his own second solo, because you can tell he he didn't bother to learn the songs. You don't hear him strumming too much in the background because when his guitar comes in, you hear it. Other than that, he's probably just kind of strumming here or there throughout. I don't know what Clapton was doing at the time. I don't think he wasn't up to much. He didn't have like his big '80s comeback yet. This was '84ish. I don't think he did like I forgot the name of that song. Then he did a whole bunch more in the late '80s. But I think I spent too much time talking about an album I kind of don't like. So we're down to the top 3. So this is where it gets tight. I like all of them. And number 3, I'm gonna go with the most recent one. Is This the Life We Really Want? Brisk. It's only about 50-something minutes. Which other albums he's always trying to relive The Wall. Everything he was trying to make after that seemed like he was trying to go for like, I'm gonna make another great concept album like The Wall. It never totally panned out, but this is produced by the guy who did like some Radiohead stuff. This is pretty good. Like Bird in the Gale, I thought was a great song. A lot of the stuff, it sounds like they're using callbacks to like the old synthesizers and stuff from back in the day on like Animals, and a lot of the production. Some of the songs sound like Obscured by Clouds. Another time you're thinking this sounds like metal right here, like the dry kind of snare drum on that. They've made it sound old. This is like the album you were kind of hoping he would do right after the. This is what you would have hoped like Pros and Cons was going to sound like after. This one kind of filled in the gaps of like all the other stuff you were missing from like Pink Floyd's, like Roger Waters stuff. He was like, where's the jams? Where's like that, like him doing like the bass breakdown in the middle of like echoes, boom boom, 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 do, 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 do. Stuff like that is on here. This is he rocks out a little bit more on this. Where the other albums he didn't. It was more about storytelling. This is bunch of tight little songs. I don't even think there's any real concept album to it. It's just like he's old and he's angry. He's old and angry on everything. He's still complaining about the world. We like that stuff. So where are we at now? We're at number 2. 1 or 2. I'm flipping it over. What am I going to say? I'm going to say I'm going Amused to Death is number 2. So that means there's going to be a big upset for number 1, because now you know what number 1 is. There's also a remastered version with this. I love his best solo song ever is What God Wants. Love that song. But then he does What God Wants Part 2, which is in Part 3. I don't think we need it, although Jeff Beck, who guests on this, he does a killer solo. I think it was the beginning of Part 3. Don Henley's on here too. He sings watching TV. This is another where his lyrics are way too wordy. There's a plot in here somewhere where there's a monkey. He's watching TV, he's flipping channels and stuff, and it's supposed to be a play on where it's like he's amused himself to death from all the silliness on TV. And this was like 1992 or 3, and the world got way sillier since then. The other great song, The Bravery of Being Out of Range, he played that a lot in concert. Perfect Sense is another good song. But kind of like the second half of the album, kind of drifts. It's like 75 minutes long. If this was 50 minutes, it would have been a better, like a lot of times I say less is more with all these albums. You would have been happy if they were like some bonus track or something on there. Then you would have been happy with a 75-minute album. But as far as like a tight narrative album, probably should have ended 2 songs earlier. If you moved up, I don't know. Honestly, if you throw any of his albums on during a party, you're going to kill the party. This is for like, sitting around alone or going out on a walk or something like that and getting all up in your head. I remember I cleared out a New Year's Eve party. I put on the King of the Deathmatch tournament with Mick Foley and Terry Funk. Everybody left the room. They all went. I was like, I killed the party. I feel like that would be like throwing this album on. You'll like it. You might love it. Nobody else is gonna feel your jam. Pink Floyd, they might party out to that. Everybody might get into the Dark Side of the Moon. Nobody's getting up, nobody's dancing, nobody's tapping their toes to this stuff. It's just weird. You got to get into your weird alone with these albums. So then where are we at? We're at Radio K.A.O.S is number 1. What? Radio K.A.O.S? I can go out for a walk and listen to Radio K.A.O.S all the way through. I don't really get bored of it either. So on Radio Waves, I got a bootleg of that also, that tour, and I liked it. Radio Waves live is way better. There's a couple of extra songs that were missing on the album that were like B-sides on singles. He adds them in live. It was good he cut those. We didn't need those. It was Molly's song and Going to L.A., I think it was called. We did not need those. Slowed the album down. Brisk, 40-minute album. What was the name of that song I really liked? Like, here's the thing. There's a big story. It's kind of like Watchmen, where guy in a wheelchair doesn't talk, only talks through his his computer, like Stephen Hawking's, and he talks to a radio DJ. He calls him in, and he fakes a nuclear war to bring the whole world together. And isn't that kind of like Ozymandias' plot from Watchmen? But Who Needs Information? That was a pretty good song. They killed that live. Powers That Be, I think, is actually the best song on here. 4 minutes is Roger Waters really does like the sound effects, and it's kind of like The Trial on here, where they kind of bring the whole story together. He lights off the fake like War Games type. This is really bizarre. See, this is like, you figure he makes this album. It's like, you know what? I'm really gonna show Pink Floyd. Pros and cons of Hitchhiking. The album didn't sell so well. The tour didn't even go so well. And I had Eric Clapton. No, now I'm going to show him. I'm going to come up with the story of Billy. It's batshit crazy. I liked it. It's not better than Momentary Lapse of Reason. I'm sorry, but it is good. It is entertaining. The production is completely dated. I think he was going for like some sort of like Don Henley type sound, or like a parody of it, because every song sounded like it was supposed to be like on the radio. Every song is kind of broken up by Billy talking to the DJ. Like, all these songs are being played on the radio, so that's why they sounded modern and more poppy and upbeat. Something like Roger Waters you think he would like throw up at, but since he's doing it as a concept, he's cool with it. This thing's full of like 80s references and Reagan and Thatcher and the Russians and nuclear war, and this is standard stuff you do, like this, When the Wind Blows, Final Cut. That's all they ever seem to talk about. I'm cool with it. I'm cool. I liked it. Sometimes looking back, I don't remember what half of this stuff was. I never knew back then because I was a little kid. I don't think this album would have been like, oh, teenagers, I gotta go buy this. No, they went out and bought the new Pink Floyd album because it just sounded cool. There's lots of guitar solos and spectacles and pigs flying around. There's not a guitar solo on the whole damn thing. There was on that one song that got cut, that Going to L.A. You figure you would have pulled in like there's a guitarist on there. I forgot who it was, but pulled in another guy who can like smoke out a solo. That's why I'm thinking like, oh, you got to give Gilmour his writing credits. Nick Mason, Rick Wright. Rick Wright added the mood, but it's also very wordy. So you are not going to know what the story is without reading Wikipedia. Because also look at the liner notes. And I also had this on tape, and I couldn't read it. It was so damn small. Yeah, there's the story. Try reading that. Is there even commas in there? Are there even breaks within the paragraphs? No, you're not gonna. You're not gonna get the gist of the story without reading up on it, like I had to. And I only knew what it was because back in the day, from that same biography I mentioned earlier, that had the story of, so I knew what this album was going into. But if it came out back in the day, you would have like completely lost. This tour also bombed. He didn't even go on tour with Amused to Death after that. He didn't go on tour again until Pink Floyd was done, and like he went out there, played all the Pink Floyd songs. Like Gilmour, he only tours once every blue moon, and he only does like selective dates and stuff like that. So he was out there. Pink Floyd's not on tour. Roger Waters still on opening. I'm the only one out there. I'm taking the Pink Floyd legacy. I'm playing all the big gigs with it. So more power to him from that. He had a tighter band. The '80s version, he strayed far off, like the arrangements and stuff like that. Way too much saxophone. Sometimes, like the radio K.A.O.S. tour, the guy sounded like he was playing an Ibanez or something. It's like, no, you go get a Strat and get a little bit tighter on that. He even stopped playing a lot of his solo songs in the tours. Mainly, like the first tour I went to was what, 2005 or 6 or something like that. Played the Dark Side of the Moon all the way through. Pink Floyd already did that on the Division Bell tour, but you know what? Why not? They weren't doing it. He's filling in the gap. So that's when his career went up. Because talking about that, we'll get into the live albums. We got In the Flesh, which is after him touring for a couple of years, he put out a live album. He's got a really good set list, better set list than I actually think Pink Floyd does or did at the time. Because you're getting stuff from Animals. He does If from Adam Hart Mother, which they didn't. He does Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, a better version of it than that Clapton tour one where the guy played. There's not supposed to be saxophone in that song. Get that out of there. Eric Clapton, he played like a blues solo in it. Turned it. No, it doesn't work. It's supposed to be Spacey Jam. Eric Clapton actually killed it on, oh god, what song was it? The Gunner's Dream. He put a killer solo at the end of that. Then, actually the first live album he did The Wall live in Berlin. It's neat if you watch it, but it's got like lots of guest singers and stuff on that. It's not a faithful adaptation of The Wall. The best version of that is there anybody out there, the Pink Floyd version, where it's taken from like the Earl's Court concert, like 80, 81. Then he also does another Wall, one that came out from this tour, this shirt. That's pretty good, but I would suggest watching that. It's also, he's got like, the DVD also has stuff cut in from like his own like little documentary bits. So if you want to cut that out and just listen to it on a CD, that's probably better. I always buy live DVDs. I watch them once, that's it. I never watch them ever again. Maybe a rare mood I'll watch one like 5 years later, but I'm not throwing them on 6 times in 1 week. In the car ride, I'll leave an album in for like a month. Then he's got Us and Them. I actually got a problem with this one. The video of it's great. The actual CD of it, which I was listening to on streaming, it sounded like just like a studio recording. Like they just played it live in a studio. They cut out like the in between songs you can hear clapping and cheering and stuff like that, but you get no atmosphere that it was in an arena, so kind of knocking that one. So live albums, I'm going, well, In the Flesh was more faithful than the 2 bootlegs I heard from the 80s, so I'm probably putting that number 1. Then I'm doing The Wall, not the Berlin one, but then I'll do Us and Them, even though I think the mix is too perfect. And then we're going to go with The Wall last, the 1990, the Berlin one. So, just rambled for 21 minutes about Roger Waters' entire solo career. Sum it all up. Guys in Pink Floyd should have got more writing credits, because you can tell if he's trying to go for, I am Pink Floyd, I was the whole mastermind of, there's a lot missing. He's missing the mood. He needed an editor for his lyrics, but this is the fun of listening to his solo stuff. You've digested all of Pink Floyd. Now you have to digest all of Roger Waters, the man behind all that stuff. And Then you want to listen to all of David Gilmour's stuff. Then you want to listen to all of Rick Wright's stuff. And then if you really want to challenge yourself, you listen to Nick Mason's 2 solo albums. But surprisingly, I saw Nick Mason's solo tour also, the Saucer Full of Secrets. And I will say, I saw the Gilmour DVD live, saw Roger Waters live twice, and a bunch of his concerts. The Nick Mason one was the best, because the Nick Mason one played all the stuff from the early albums. They finished the show with Point Me at the Sky, and I was like, oh my god, you finished the show with one of the most obscure Pink Floyd songs. I love it. You had me. I would kind of hope his band would come out with like some new material, but that's kind of not the point of them. They're like a cover band of early Pink Floyd, which also had like Guy Pratt in it too. So it kind of makes it, more. It makes it legitimate actually. That's like people went out with less and called it like the actual band name. You got original drummer and a later day guy in there, and Rat got away with more than that. Bobby Blotzer's Rat. That's it. That's all I got to say. Next one of these, worst to best, I'm working on. I just got into listening to this band. I don't know why it took me so long to start listening to them. We're going to do Jefferson Starship. I'm going to try and do Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, going into Starship, but it's mainly going to be Jefferson Starship. So, thank you.